Good morning. This is the JP Dinnell podcast, episode 68. I am JP Dinnell, and as always, I have Lucas with me. What's up, buddy?
What's going on, Punkin? Happy New Year.
I know. How are you doing, man?
I'm old, fat, and cranky, and it's serving me well.
Nice. Good.
Getting ready for Quitters Friday, baby. I am so looking. I've already had my conversation with Jonathan Montgomery and let him know that our mutual acquaintance Max Planck probably off the path. So we gotta have a conversation with him. But dude, good, doing well.
Good, awesome. So today is Amanda and I's anniversary.
Congratulations!
I know, man. Let's go.
What is this?
13.
13.
Yeah. Man.
Okay, so when do you start counting? Do you start from like when you dated, or do you start from?
Ours is our anniversary.
Yeah.
So this is our wedding anniversary, which is also the same anniversary of when we first met and talked and everything.
Yeah, I know you are the master of consolidation when it comes to this stuff.
Yeah.
It is
so that would be 14 years if we're going
okay.
for
Yeah,
that.
yeah. Right on.
Yeah. So I think it was last year or 2 years ago I made a anniversary post and I had mixed up those numbers in my head. And I was like, well, I mean, she didn't care.
Yeah, right.
I mean, it was, an anniversary post, but and then it's funny because we'll joke and people anniversary and Amanda's like, well, which anniversary? Because we got divorced and then remarried.
Oh yeah, that's true. Yeah.
And we had actually talked about getting remarried on the same day.
Just keep it all together.
Keep it on that same day, but we didn't. I mean, that was in April. So
right on.
Yeah, we actually were out in Vegas. I was out there on a work trip and it was one of my clients. I told you about them. When they go do their events, they do them at like really, really, really nice places.
Yeah.
And it's typically it's crazy, man. It's always fallen on a week that I don't have like other gigs. It's always
really?
Usually it's weird. It happens every single time.
That's cool.
Every single time. And so, yeah, they go to this really nice place down in Key West, and where it's down south of Key West, and then there's like this little island that you have to take a little boat ferry to get to where we stay.
Get to the island that they stay at?
Yes. And so every time...
That sounds terrible.
I know, it's horrible.
I would totally not be.
Have you ever heard of Sea Island in Georgia? Mm-mm. Check it out.
I'm going to Google it right now.
Yeah. It's beautiful. And so anyways, I was doing an event with one of their teams in Vegas, and... They're awesome. They're like, hey, if you want to come out and bring your wife out with you for the week, we just need you speaking this day, but we'll put you up the whole week. And it was at the Four Seasons in Vegas. And they're like, all your meals, everything, hotel, meals, drinks for the whole week for you and your wife, if you can come and work with us on Wednesday. And so we flew out there on Sunday, and we were there Sunday to Friday.
That's pretty freaking awesome, man.
Dude, it was
dang.
Awesome. So when we were out there, met up with one of my really good buddies, one of my best friends from the SEAL team, Steve Chira. He's an older guy. He was an older guy when I checked into the platoon.
What does that mean? Because we've talked about what you thought of as old guys whenever you checked into the platoon, and so many of those are numbers now that I'm like, nah, it's not old.
Yeah, he wasn't old, but it's a phrase that we would use in the teams because he had more platoons than you.
Yeah.
So he was an older guy. But yeah, Steve Chowdhury, he was actually in the Buds 234 documentary that they did on Discovery Channel.
Yeah. Isn't that the one that Adeleke, like that's the one that he watched that like got him fired up about becoming a SEAL?
Why am I drawing a blank on this? Maybe
I don't know. I think it was because
so,
he was talking about there was a Buds documentary and he watched it like a bunch of times and it got him all fired up for it.
That's awesome. Yeah. But yeah, so Steve was in that documentary, and then he was in my platoon. Awesome dude. When I was first on Jocko's podcast, I actually talked about Steve because I was like, there's this big, massive Native American, and it was like with the guys, and like he's just one of those guys. He's just a big, just strong, athletic. He looked like what you would visualize as like a SEAL. And I was like, I hope that guy's in my platoon. Like you just
he's who you want to be.
Yes, so the guy you want to be working with.
Yep.
And he was. And man, he was such a good teammate. He taught me a lot. He had a lot of patience. That guy had a lot of patience with us, which is impressive because most guys in the SEAL teams don't have a lot of patience towards new guys.
Yeah.
They don't. And which they should have more because if you look at it from a coaching and mentoring legacy type of mindset, you should definitely have a little more patience. But there is also the aspect of like you got to add some pressure and stress in the SEAL teams to see how guys are going to perform.
And there's also,
we're not Boy Scouts, so we need guys to be, pushed.
I wonder, personal question here coming from the left side of the room.
From the NCC?
Yeah, from the NCC. Whoa. Wow.
I know.
Well,
I knew you were going to say it.
You know what? Thank you, 2025, for that. So I'm curious, last year, one of the big things that I did as far as like my reading books was to really focus in and hone on and learn a lot about World War II. Okay. And there's a lot of the guys that made it through that talk about, after the first couple of months, they didn't bother to learn the new guys' names until they'd been there for, a few weeks. And some of it was because of, what we would now classify as like PTSD or TBIs and those kind of things that they're dealing with. But there was another part that like they said that there were just so many guys that washed out that just like were getting up there, and not just the guys that passed away, but just like couldn't ever get to the front. Yeah. So is that like a piece of it is like the washout rate that they knew that like, hey, this is it, or is it just a total test?
Yeah, that's a good question, but that's not.
Thank you.
I mean, that's not what it's like.
Starting
once you're in the
2025 with good questions, man. I am on a roll.
Yeah. Well, wait. We still have the rest of this episode.
One in a row.
Got one in a row. No, because once you're in the SEAL teams, I mean, you're in the SEAL teams for the most part, unless you're just a complete screw up. And
because you would have already gone through SQT,
yes,
right?
You've gone through BUDS and SQT, and now you're a new guy in the platoon. So I think part of that is just, I mean, you teach what you know.
Yeah.
And so if you were a new guy checking in, and if you were treated like crap, and you were hazed and abused, and blah blah blah, like once you get done, like you can't wait to be in that position as well.
Right.
And I know saying it that way seems really bad, but there are guys literally that were like, I cannot wait until I'm not a new guy.
Yeah.
Because then now they had the chance to do the same thing. And so unfortunately there can be some of that. That's not a common thing.
Do you think that maybe some of that was passed down by the Vietnam era guys because those were the things that they saw and that just became part of the culture?
Yeah, absolutely. It's just all passed down. It's like one to the next, to the next, to the next, to the next. And you could tell, there were some platoons that didn't do it. And guess what? Their platoon chief didn't allow it. Sean Glass talked about this on his most recent episode with Jocko, and they did a phenomenal job. He was breaking down stuff from the teams, and one of the things is one of the platoons in their troop was making the guys wear pink tridents on their uniform. And so instead of like the regular Velcro patch trident as new guys, they were making them all. And Sean's like, no. Absolutely not.
It wasn't a breast cancer awareness trident?
Nope. No, it was not. And it was like because they're new guys. And so the thing that they used to do in the teams is like you would go through you go through BUDS, you check into the SEAL teams. As a new guy, you don't have your trident.
Right.
And so that's part of your review process is at the SEAL team with your platoon.
Oh,
and so,
wow.
Yeah, you talk about a different level of stress.
No joke.
I mean, and they're teaching you all the things, and then you do a trident review board, and then you would get your trident. And
that sounds...
It's awesome.
The trident review board sounds super cool.
It sounds awesome, and I think it's a pretty cool thing. But I will say the problem with that is that was also dependent upon the platoon and task unit you were a part of. So if you didn't have really good leadership or really good guys that weren't very knowledgeable teaching you stuff, like you can get a watered down version of a team guy because there was no, I mean, there's standards and baselines, but do you understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
There was no, hey, this is what we're doing universally through training.
Right.
The creation of SQT, the SEAL qualification training, was incredible. And it continues to get better and better and better.
Yeah.
I mean, especially because you have more experienced guys that are training it and leading it. And so Sean's whole thing, and I'll send you the podcast, you'll really, really, really like it.
Yeah.
Sean's whole thing is like, the reason why he was so upset about it was the whole thought process of okay, so you're saying that these guys that put them through training, that qualified them, that gave them tridents, their word isn't enough. guys with like legitimate combat experience,
Yeah.
more combat experience than some of these other guys. You're saying that his word doesn't mean anything because what you're on your second platoon and this guy's done 7 platoons.
Right.
Do you understand like that? And so
Yeah.
taking away from, a legitimate command that put guys through training, that qualified them, that said, hey, you're good to go into the SEAL teams. Here's your trident, like pinned it on their chest. And then now they're getting into a platoon and they're saying, nope, you have to wear a pink trident. Sean was pissed.
Yeah.
And when Sean was explaining all this, I was like on team Sean as well.
Yeah, no
because
doubt.
that's ridiculous. When you're a new guy, you're a new guy. I couldn't imagine us doing that to Mikey or Mark or Ryan Job or any of the other new guys.
No, yeah, and you're diminishing the accomplishments, right?
Yep, yeah. But that's the but yes, you are. What they didn't recognize is that's a legitimate accomplishment graduating from SQT.
Yeah.
Now, hey, you're still a new guy, so hey,
You got a lot to learn.
Yeah, mouth shut, eyes open, ears open, listen, take notes, be a hard worker, be coachable, be teachable, take criticism,
all of that.
all those things. And understand that guys are just going to mess with you because that's what we do in the SEAL team.
Sure.
It's just part of like seeing how you can handle it. There's a saying, hard times create hard men create good times, good times create weak men create hard times.
Yeah.
That is a legitimate thing.
It's a vicious cycle.
It's a vicious cycle.
Yep.
And the SEAL teams were like, no, we're not going to create weak men. We're not going to create people that are not capable of taking criticism, people that are not capable of working hard. So there has to be
because your enemy
balance.
is going to have done all of those things.
Yeah. It's the same thing like in business and anything else. Like you actually have to be able to put in the work, take criticism, take feedback, make adjustments. You know what I mean? Like, and the SEAL teams, like, we're creating men that are going to go to war. You can take that same mindset and apply it to being a pastor, to being a business owner.
Bro, I literally talked about this yesterday.
Really?
Yeah. Yeah. So yesterday I got the opportunity to speak at Charisma Church in the afternoon. They're celebrating, it's a church plant that's celebrating their 3-year anniversary. And that's a huge milestone for any organization because most fizzle out before they hit the 3-year mark, right? So this was a big thing, and they brought in a bunch of pastors, and I had the honor to be the one giving the sermon. Yeah, super imposter syndrome for me yesterday. There's all these guys who've like PhDs that have been really instrumental in this, and I've known Pastor Leslie for a couple of months, and he was like, man, I really want you to come in and speak. And I'm looking at all these guys that I have tremendous respect for that are sitting on the front row, and they're like, hey, we want you to sit here. And I'm like, freaking no. I need to be like rows back.
That's amazing.
But we talked about this exactly, is that there are so many pastors in particular that are not competitive and that are weak. And, this one sort of portrayal of the modern pastor that comes up a lot is a guy who's a little effeminate. He's got kind of a lisp, and he's like, just come to church with us and we'll talk about Jesus. I'm like, I hate that that's the caricature that we've become, because if you show me a pastor that's not competitive, then I will show you a pastor that's going to lose his flock.
Yep.
And not because he isn't a good leader, but because he's going to lose the truth of the gospel somewhere along the lines, and he's going to lead them astray because he doesn't understand that the enemy that we're up against has been doing this for millennia.
Yeah.
That he's smarter than us. He's funnier. He's more fun. He's all of these things that we want to be. The only thing that we have to stand on is this truth. And if we're not competitive, if we're just like, nope, this is the good church and we're going to love everybody and everything's going to be great. If we don't have that competitive instinct,
anybody.
Yeah, then we've already lost.
Yeah.
And that was one of the things, is like, if you show me, if I end up in a place where I'm like conversing with a weak pastor, my immediate thing, the competitive thing that sparks in me is like, I'm going to take this dude's flock.
Yeah.
Because you're going to mess him up.
Yeah. You're going to ruin them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's, it sounds like that's the same type of mentality, even more so that you guys had. Like,
we had this. Yeah, we had to. And so, understand, like, I hope someone's not listening and hearing what I'm not saying. Like, I think you should be, tough with your newer people. Yeah. Because you care about them. You should have high standards. You should train them. You should equip them. But there was like, sometimes there's this imbalance there where guys would take it too far. And I just loved, Sean's episode where he was just like, no, he's like, you're telling me like that these guys like legitimate combat veterans who are the gatekeepers to our community, their word means nothing to you. Yeah, no, we're not doing that.
What do you think that does in, not what Sean says, like reverse just a little bit. What does that do to the rest of the guys in the platoon? Like if they, okay, so tomorrow that platoon is called into a war zone and they're deployed. Is there something in the back of their minds where they look at the guy that's across from them and they see the pink trident and they start to think that they're not capable?
I mean, maybe subconsciously there could be. Now, obviously, like if you're like guys are getting deployed, like they're not going to wear that overseas,
right?
But they're just making them wear it in training as kind of just a new guy hazing type of thing.
Yeah, but does it? I mean, on some level, like does it affect that? Not just the pink trident, but the fact that now you've put them in another part of the community. They're not just the new guy anymore, but you're making it less. I don't know. Maybe I'm overanalyzing it.
I don't know. That's why I just keep saying it could be because I don't know.
Yeah.
And I think.
But even more reason to not.
Yeah, but why would you? Like, what's the point? What are you accomplishing? You know, there was a thing for a while in the SEAL teams that when guys would check in from SQT, and this was like when SQT first got stood up and they went over there, older guys were they're like, hey, you know, turn in your tridents. You got to turn in your tridents until like you know we give them back to you, and they'd take their tridents. They would paint them blue and put them in a bird cage, because blue in the military is inert. So if you have like a blue barrel on a gun or blue anything, it's inert. So they're saying that their tridents were inert, and they would keep them in a bird cage, which is kind of funny because trident the bird, until they got back. And that. Dude, there was guys that lost their minds over that.
Really?
SQT instructors, the captain that ran NSW training command, like that Buds and SQT, when he found out that was happening, he went to the commands and talked to the commanding. Oh, yeah. I mean, because you got to think about it. He's the one running that training saying, hey, these guys are qualified. They are trained, equipped, and qualified to wear a trident on their uniform and check in the SEAL teams as a new guy. And now there's some dude who's done 2 platoons to a non-combat zone is saying you don't deserve that.
No, you're not.
So there's a little bit of...
That's a whole lot of like showing a lack of trust and respect in the guys that sent him through.
Yep. Yeah. And that's also just a prime example of just people taking things way too far.
Yeah.
Took it way too far. Hey, like I said, I've said it before, I was hazed as a new guy, I was messed with, but I also had good old guys like Steve Chira and Benny and Pepper and a few other guys that I don't know if I can say their name or they want me to, but they treated us with respect. Now, we got tuned up when we messed up. And I've had a few counseling sessions from those guys where it was well deserved because my attitude was not where it needed to be.
Sure.
You know, but it's just part of it. You know, one of them, you know, I remember one of them is because I was having a bad attitude and I was frustrated with what we were doing overseas on my first deployment. And, you know, they brought me outside, sat me down in the vehicle, just me and them. And there, I'm sitting in the passenger seat. There's someone in the driver's seat, and the guy's sitting behind me. And so the message was very clear that my attitude needed to change.
Hey, buddy, things are going to be okay. Is that kind of how it went?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. Pretty close. And, you know, they made it very clear that my attitude needed to change.
Yeah.
And to the point where like, hey, if you don't want to be here, we can send you home. I was like, And it wasn't that I didn't want to be there. I was just mad.
You wanted another assignment.
Yes.
Yeah.
I want to be kicking indoors doing, you know, the CQC missions that, you know, guys are doing. And, you know, they're out there doing these capture kill missions, running CQC through buildings and complexes and stuff. And we're doing personal security for the...
Was Leif on that same detail with you? Or a similar one?
Yes.
Yeah.
As a whole, but not
in your group. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because I had at this past muster, Jocko mentioned that, and I was like, "Were you guys with?" I didn't know if you guys were there on that.
So we deployed together.
together.
He was at Team 5. I was at Team 3, but we deployed together.
Right.
And Team 5 guys were doing PSD, and we were So.
That's wild.
Yeah. Yeah. There's a little flip flop on that deployment because they did a thing called a RIP back in the day, and for the first 3 months of our deployment, we went to Guam, and then from Guam. I mean, when we were in Guam, we were doing training the whole time.
Yeah.
And then from there, we went to Thailand and Okinawa and a few other places to do training. And then we had guys in the Philippines. And then, so that was the first 3 months. And then we went over to Iraq. And the guys that were in Iraq flip-flopped and came back and relieved us. And so it was like this weird manning thing with guys from Team 3 and Team 5 all deploying at the same time. And so it was like, it was just with manning. And it was a lot of things that were like mixed up.
Are there like, so in a situation like that, I get the one team, one fight thing.
Yeah.
100%. Mm-hmm. Are there rivalries between the different teams, or is there so much commingling because you guys get moved around to different teams and that kind of thing that there's not that? Because I know that there are definitely rivalries like between
there can be.
Delta and
Charlie.
Delta Platoon and Charlie Platoon, that there were some friendly rivalries there and that kind of thing. Is it the same type of thing, or is it, more like because you guys are competing for assignments and that kind of stuff that it's more amped up?
Sometimes.
Yeah.
And I think that was also a direct reflection of the leadership.
Right.
If there was we had really good leaders in the teams. We also had some turds.
Yeah, we've talked about that a little bit. We definitely know that.
Yeah. But we had really good leadership as a whole in the SEAL teams. And when you have good leadership, that will reflect amongst your guys.
Right.
And so while there was times of some legitimate competition, for the most part, it was like, hey, bro, like, we're in the teams together. And you knew the guys. You knew the guys because you were at the command together. And it's very, very rare for guys to not want to go do stuff with other guys.
Right.
So I think there's a little balance of that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That makes sense. Right. I mean, it's just interdepartmental stuff, right? Mm-hmm. Like it's odd to think about it in that way when you're talking about what you guys did versus sales versus the mailroom, but there is, but there is some of that does kind of translate, especially when it comes to, the cooperation between the leadership, as long as they remember that, you guys are working together, that it is one team, one fight, one mission, all of that stuff, then that changes that stuff pretty dramatically. Yeah.
And it just takes somebody reminding you of that.
Yeah.
And sometimes it came from the leadership, sometimes it came from somebody on a second platoon. Mm-hmm. Where it's like, hey, knucklehead, like, we're all the same team. Like, we need their help. They need our help, or whatever it is. So we saw that a lot on that deployment, because there was a lot of intermingling of the different groups that were doing the personal security, because sometimes they would all be meeting together. Yeah. And so, I mean, we're it's the top elected officials there in Iraq that we're keeping safe. So there's a lot of mixing and matching of, hey, this guy's going over to his compound. Okay, cool. Hey, reach out to that ADVOM team. Like, it's their building. They, hey, see if they can do the ADVOM for us before we show up, because they're already there. Can they leave somebody? So there'd be a lot of that. And it was just a lot of back and forth support for each other.
That's right, man.
Yeah.
So I want to talk a little bit about this now that we've opened up the door there. With the new year comes a lot of disappointments, because people are experiencing like failure, or maybe they're experiencing like change. Yeah. And they're not excited about where they're at for 2025. Right. I'll share something a little personal. As my wife and I are kind of gearing up. We're talking about our goals for our family, our finances, and those kind of things. And we're looking at it and projecting out, and we're on pace for where we want to be, but we're a little behind from where we thought we could be. Yep. And
I've been there in business, bro.
Right.
So
like,
let's go.
Yeah, like those things happen, right? So with this first deployment, you were doing something that you didn't want to do. You had some guys who came and counseled you. Yeah. How did your shift in attitude work, and how do you coach people to have a similar shift in attitude so that you can be effective where you're at, so that, that maybe this time next year or in 3 months from now, we can look and say, hey, actually we're not just on pace for our long-term strategic goals like we have been, but now we're at a better spot.
Yeah. So I think, the first thing you have to do, which you guys have done, is do a really good, thorough, honest assessment.
It sucks.
Yeah, it does.
It does, yeah. It's a kick in the squares.
I will challenge you, is you can also say it's awesome.
Yeah.
Because, and I know you think that way.
Good. Now we know where to improve, right?
Exactly.
Yeah,
Well, yeah,
100%.
you know where you're at. And also, if you're to compare your assessment to somebody else's assessment, it could be way better.
Yeah.
It could also be way worse.
Right.
That's why you got to be careful comparing.
You are where you are. Just accept that and move.
One of the things that, I've said at Pursuit a few times to guys because, they'll be, sharing some of their stuff and they're like, oh, wow, man, that's nothing compared to what Lucas just shared. My stuff, I don't even want to talk about it. Your issues are your issues, and they're real. It doesn't mean just because you have way worse issues than I do, doesn't mean that my issues aren't real to me.
Yeah.
And so you have to be careful because comparison is the ultimate thief of joy.
100%.
And so you do the assessment, you know where you're at. Okay, cool. I'm not where I want to be. I'm not happy with it. What are you going to do about it?
Yeah.
And that's what's cool is because you can ask yourself, what are you going to do about it? Hey, your business isn't where it needs to be. What are you going to do about it? Are you going to let it keep going the same course? Are you going to make adjustments? Are you going to quit? Or are you going to double? You know what I mean? Like you have all these different options. And so for you guys, you have the ability to say, okay, this is where we're at. This is where we want to be. We are hoping we'd be here, but we're not. We're here. Okay. What changes do I need to make to get me caught up and back on pace, or caught up and ahead of pace, or in doing that honest assessment, say, okay, we're not where we want to be. Okay. We make these changes, we put in the extra work, the extra effort, whatever it is, and this is where we're at.
Yeah.
Like, hey, this is the trajectory that we have. There's no changing it. No, we know that God can open doors and 100%. Do just crazy things.
Beyond what we could ever think or imagine, I believe is how it's stated. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, 100%. So we know that's always there.
Yeah.
Josh and I were just talking about that. He's mentioned that multiple times when we talk about stuff for on the path, and we're looking at like projections and stuff like that, and just kind of mapping out the year. And he said, "But you know what? You never know what God has in store for us." And I just like every time I'm like, yeah, absolutely. Because when I think back to like 8.5 years ago, where I was at, and just trying to like figure out what the next steps were, and then all of a sudden the opportunity of Echelon Front came about, and then you look at what that first year did, and then everything else compounding upon itself from there. It's pretty incredible what God can do. I know you're looking up a verse. What you got?
No, it's that one. It's Ephesians 3:20. Now to Him who is able to do above and beyond all that we ask or think, according to the power that works in us. So not just like beyond what we're able to know to ask, but even beyond what we can think. Like those things can be adjusted.
Yeah.
You talk about the struggle, and we've talked about your journey a couple of times. One of the things that I always encourage people with whenever they talk about your success is like to remember that there was a point where y'all were living in a 1-bedroom apartment and trying to make it work.
Yeah, it was it wasn't a 1-bedroom apartment. Sorry, it was a small 2-bedroom house in Mississippi.
Okay, yeah, there we go.
Where Aiden was in his little bunk bed, and the girls were on a queen mattress on the floor in the corner because we couldn't put another bed in there.
Yeah.
There's one dresser in there for them to share all their stuff. Amanda and I were in our small room. The office that we had was in the kitchen, so we didn't have a kitchen where we actually sat down and ate dinner. It was in the living room, and most of the time it was going to the in-laws to, and so
to eat or to help,
yeah,
or whatever, yeah,
absolutely. And then me bringing whatever leftovers Marco's Pizzas had. Like, oh, the mess of the pizza, we're going to throw it away. I'm like, oh, no, we'll hold it right there,
Yeah. Put it on the shelf just in case somebody wants that one.
Yeah, and then at the end of the night, just be like, it's crazy, man. But, yeah, I mean, yeah, you're spot on. I mean, everybody, it's easy, and I know you weren't saying, like, we're successful, and I don't look at us as being, like, successful, but it's easier when you look at other people just to compare their current state. Mm-hmm. To your current state and not understand like all the work that's needed to be put in there.
100%.
And that's the thing is like most people aren't willing to put in the work and like the actual hard work. And so, that's That's another aspect of it, is you and your wife looking at it and saying, okay, cool, this is where we're at. This is where we want to be. And then if you and your wife have alignment, then you can go accomplish anything, bro.
Yeah.
Amanda and I have had alignment since day one on Echelon Front.
Yeah.
Bro, you got to think about that. I've been doing this 8 years. Not once has Amanda ever complained about me leaving for a work trip.
Yeah.
Not once has she ever called me on a work trip complaining about me being gone. She's like, when things have gone wrong at the house, she's never called me to complain about things going wrong at the house.
That's wild, dude.
Not once.
Yeah.
Now, I'll learn about those things in conversations because we'll talk about
right.
it. But I'm telling you, not once has she ever called me and like,
hey, we got an emergency. I need you to come back or whatever. Yeah.
Because she knows I can't.
Yeah.
Right. And also, she's never done that to try to make me feel bad.
Yeah.
Like, ever.
Dude, that's a massive thing, right? Your spouse in particular has, and not just like your spouse, I'm saying a person's spouse.
Yeah.
They have the power to make you or break you in ways that no one else does. And that's the necessity of that relationship, right? Is that they should have that, or else you're not being vulnerable, you're not communicating well enough, whatever that is.
Yeah.
But the amount of guilt and shame that somebody can throw onto their spouse because, like, yeah, hey, maybe you're helping us reach our financial goals, but you know what? You weren't here. Yeah. And so that makes, everything that you did worthless now. And that kind of guilt and shame can crush somebody, and having that alignment, like, hey, this is what we're doing. This is why we're doing it, is such a powerful thing. Yeah. You're right about that.
So yeah, to put a bow on what you asked, or we can keep like peeling back the layers, whatever you want, man. Yeah. I think it's awesome that you guys did the assessment, right?
Yeah.
You know where you're at. You know where you want to be. And here's the cool thing about doing these things regularly. I don't think you should do them once a year. Now, if you only do it once a year, cool. Yeah. Awesome. At least you're doing it. I think it's something that people need to be better at, sitting down and doing it. This is something Amanda and I need to get better at, is like doing it more frequently. Mm-hmm. But you also have to understand, like, okay, so it's January. You're like, hey, this is where we're at. This is where we want to be. This is what we're going to do. Boom. And you move forward. Things are going to change.
Yep.
Things are going to change, whether it's good or bad. I don't know.
Or indifferent, right?
Yes.
They're going to change.
But things are going to change. And now how that affects your guys' progress, we don't know. You don't know that yet.
Yeah.
You're never going to know. The other thing is your goals might change, man.
Yeah.
In 6 months, you might be like, hey, you know what? Like,
these were dumb goals.
I don't want to do this.
Yeah.
Or you're like, those weren't big enough.
Yeah.
Actually, I want, boom. Right. And so I think coming up with a plan is critical. Mm-hmm. Working your plan is critical.
Yeah.
And when I say working, I mean working your butt off to like go get it done, not expecting anybody else to do it, not expecting handouts, like actually going out there and like getting it done, but being flexible. You have to be flexible.
Yeah.
And if you're flexible and you're expecting those changes to come, then when they do happen, it doesn't derail you. It doesn't throw you off. You're like, oh, cool, we actually expected this. Or, hey, this is a shift and this is a change. And understanding that sometimes, like we say, the enemy gets a vote.
Yeah.
There are going to be things that happen that you had no control over.
Yeah. I think that's a really important thing too for people to get, like, okay, so you've ended up in a situation where, like, you got an assignment that you didn't want. But when you start to take ownership of it, mm-hmm. then you can actually I won't say that you'll necessarily always have fun doing it, mm-hmm. but you can make it satisfying. Yeah. When you know, like, hey, you know what? If I do this well, this is how I get to do the things mm-hmm. that I do want to do. If I do this well, then this is how we're going to, this is how I'm able to reach and accomplish those goals. And reframing those things a lot of times I think is such an important thing. I was having a friend of mine, Dr. Chris Respis, was talking to me and then helping me with refining some of my skill set. Mm-hmm. And one of the things he encouraged me on, he's like, man, you're great at like pivoting in the moment, mm-hmm. right? Your life experience and all of those things have taught you how to fly by the seat of your pants mm-hmm. in tremendous ways. And he's like, I really admire that about you. Mm-hmm. And I was like, all right. He goes, but you have to learn to find the richness in routine. Mm-hmm. And I think, when you talk about like being disciplined but not rigid, right? Like they talk about in Dichotomy of Leadership, you kind of we're getting to that a second ago. It's that thing, that flexibility. I end up on so often on the other side of that. I love being thrown into a group and they're like, hey, you guys don't know each other. There's nothing, there's a mission that you need to accomplish. We need to do that. And those are the situations that for my natural leadership style that I thrive on. Like getting everybody together, building some quick relationships, rallying everybody, figuring out what strengths and weaknesses are, sending out the team, helping everybody to get something done, which is why events are such a natural thing for me because as an extrovert, like, hey, here's a group of 20 volunteers who wants to get something done. They don't know each other, but we're here united for a common purpose. And I'm like, freaking let's go get it. Right. The day to day, those are the things that I struggle with. And I think that's why stuff like the Def Reset, and stuff like what, you've really encouraged as far as like making sure that you're hitting those benchmarks and the consistent reassessment, that there's some richness in those routines. That's something that you teach all the time, right? When you're talking about the OODA loop, or when you're talking about the, what is it that you guys call the Echelon Front? You guys don't call it the leadership. Is it the leadership
the EL loop?
Yeah. The EL loop is learning to consistently go back and to do all of these routines. In a new year, or as we're trying to reestablish ourselves, or as we've done an honest self-assessment, right? How important are those routines to us, accomplishing success? And, we've talked about different definitions of success, but let's just say for success towards accomplishing a specific goal that we've set out. How important are those running those routines and accomplishing those accomplishing missions and goals?
I think they're critical because I look at it from a couple different aspects. Okay. I want to lose 10 more pounds. Okay.
Like, is that like a legit thing that you're saying you want to lose 10 more pounds?
It's close to it. Yeah. Cause I'm hovering right around the 215, 217 range. Like
Nice.
I keep going back and forth between there. If I could lose 10 more pounds and be down around the 205 range, like, okay, that'd be cool.
Going light heavyweight, huh?
Yeah, man.
Come on, baby.
And so in order for me to do that, I have to have a routine and be disciplined with my eating habits and exercise. I have to, because if I'm not disciplined with my eating habits, if I'm not following, the plan that I have through First In Nutrition, I'm going to fail at losing 10 pounds.
Oh, yeah.
I'm not just going to lose 10 pounds because I'm able to. I do that because I'm able to eat properly and I'm able to exercise. I'm putting in the work. That's the thing. Like, that's what I love that Jonathan and say, like, do the work, win the prize.
Yep. So simple.
It's not rocket science. If you do the work, you'll win the prize. The thing is, you have to do the work.
Yeah.
That's the problem. People don't want to do the work. They just want the easy solutions, and they're not willing to put in the work. And to me, routines are absolutely critical when it comes to doing the work, because you have to have structure to get your day done. It's just like, it would be like if my dad went out on a job site and was just like, I'm just going to work on this today, and come back, and the next day like, maybe I want to do. No, there's a routine, there's a plan, there's a schedule, there's a structure, and people need structure, they need schedules, they need routines. Now there are some people that need it to be super strict and rigid. There are some people that it can be pretty loose and flowing, and those are two different extremes. Most people, we need to be living in the middle. In the middle of that realm, and that's, hey, you have your routine, you have your structure, you're sticking to your schedule. Boom, you're going to go accomplish that. That's what was like beautiful about 75 Hard.
Yeah,
as you knew what you had to do. I was watching a video. It
didn't make it easy.
Over time, it does, but yeah, you're right. It didn't. It's funny. I was watching a video, and this guy was talking about 75 Hard, and he's like, yeah, everybody I talk to, now this is this guy's perspective, whether this is true or not, but again, right, allegedly, sure. I'm going to believe him.
Allegedly.
He's saying that everybody he talked to said it was phenomenal, it reset, like all these things in their life.
Yeah.
He goes, so you found the answer. yet you stopped doing it because 75 days was done. And I was like, oh my God, that's interesting. Because I never really thought of it that way, because most of the people I talked to that did 75 hard were like, that was a game changer. It changed my health. It changed my family, my finances, everything else like that. I even had, I knew somebody that one time when they did 75 hard, they're like, anytime I hit a major milestone or need to hit a major milestone, I'm going to do 75 hard because it's going to reset me.
Yeah, that forced implementation of discipline.
But yet they've never done it again because they don't want to do the work, because they recognize how hard it is.
Yeah.
And which is unique, because I'm like, wait.
It's in the name.
Yeah, but you also at one point said you knew the benefits of doing 75 hard is it gave you all these things. It refocused you,
Yeah.
But so I think there should be a hybrid that you're able to create for yourself.
Yeah.
Now, I don't think most people can or will or want to do 75 hard nonstop, but you should. But okay, what's the takeaway from 75 hard? What were the takeaways for you from 75 hard?
Ouch. That was the first one. Right. Now, the biggest one was that I actually possess more discipline than I thought I did. And
oh, nice. That's good.
And
so confidence.
Yeah, for sure. Is that like I can be disciplined if I want to do it. And it's not like I didn't know that from like somewhere in the depths of my mind from, competitions in bodybuilding where you've got to, do whatever or competition prep or whatever. But that was like with a specific goal in mind that like, oh, I'm going to do this. I'm going to compete in this way. And then that's going to carry me to the next thing. With 75 hard, there's no trophy at the end of it. Right? There's no competition. It is as designed. It is an exercise in mental toughness. That's what it's designed for. And so it highlighted for me the fact that I could be that disciplined without there being some kind of prize at the end. The second thing was that it highlighted for me how much grace my wife has for me and how poor I am at communicating. Because if I didn't set my priorities right, if I wasn't at the gym first thing in the morning and I had to try to squeeze those 2 workouts in around like our schedule with the kids, there was a lot of those days whenever that happened where I wasn't talking to her about what I hadn't accomplished. For maybe it was because I didn't want her to know. Maybe it's because I wasn't thinking about it, or maybe it's because I was just in my own head. Like, nope, I've got to do this.
Probably a flow.
Yeah, depending on the day, which one of those things it was.
That 75 hard shame when they're like, how's your day going? You're like,
it sucks.
Great.
Yeah.
Everything's awesome. And then in your mind, you're like, I still have to read. I still have to drink. Oh my gosh, how am I going to do this? Yeah. There's a few times where all of a sudden, like, you get complacent. I'm not talking about you, but me.
Oh, I did.
I would get complacent and not do some of the things first thing in the morning, kicking off the day, and all of a sudden you're playing catch up.
Bro.
For me, for 75 hard, the thing that helped me is when I woke up, immediate 20 to 32 ounces of water I had to start consuming.
Yeah.
Because I don't drink a lot of water. So
yeah, we've talked about like this was both of our struggle, especially for me on Sundays. Like, because I'm drinking coffee at church, and then we go out to dinner, or go out to lunch with everybody, and I want a little cappuccino after lunch because I want to hang out with the people that we're there with, and talk to them. And then 3 o'clock hits, and I've had 8 ounces of water, and I'm like, oh my gosh.
And you just start pounding.
Yeah, that's it, right? And I'm like, I'm just gonna do this, and I'm gonna stay close. We got one bathroom. We're potty training a 2-year-old. I'm gonna stay close to the back door because you know what? I can go find a tree. Me and the dog will go together, right?
We're good.
So yeah, there were those things, but what really got me was when, I put our kid down, I put Levi down, and I came into the bedroom. Kirsten had just Scotty was 3 or 4 months old. She had just got done nursing him. She had put him back down, and she walks into the room, and I'm putting on stuff so that I can go for a bike ride. And this was it. This was the time that we were going to have together that day. Like everything else had been there. And, she just kissed me on the cheek and she was like, have fun, be safe. I'll probably be asleep when you get back. I'm like, cool. No problem. Bro. The next day, she talks to me and just like told me, and this is why I say like, it really highlighted how much grace my wife has for me. She's talked to me about like how inspiring it is that I'm like sticking to things and how much it has really shown her, some things that maybe she needed to improve on her routine and to get some things in order. And she's so proud to be married to somebody who's able to stick to these goals. And she was like, there is one thing I need you to do though, is when you're going to do stuff like that, like, let me know that, like, hey, before you put Levi down, just let me know, hey, you know what? I'm a little bit behind on this. She goes, because I do get my hopes up when you go do that, and I don't know that you haven't finished everything, that like, oh, we're going to get some time together. And she's like, and it's not a big deal, but last night, I was walking in, I saw on the baby monitor that he was down right as I was going to put Scotty down, and I was like, oh, we're going to get some time to spend together. And she's like, and I know it's important, and obviously, like, all of these things I really admire about it, but it would help me set an expectation, because I don't want my expectations to be something else. And I'm like, okay, so you're owning my mistake by telling me you want to do it for your expectation. And so it's one of those things that for me, like, that was a huge deal, to improve my communication and like those little things. So like when I got home, I was like, hey, you know what? I got a workout I need to do, outdoor workout, wasn't able to get it in or whatever. And she's like, hey, can we go for a walk as a family? Yeah, absolutely.
Boom.
Yeah, let's go do that. That sounds like a way better use of our time together than me getting on the bike at 1 a.m. to try and get that last 40. And there were still times when that happened.
Yeah, it's going to be.
Right. But yeah, the awareness of what, as a person whose profession is to communicate, at what a terrible communicator I am sometimes when it comes to the person that I should be communicating with the most. Yeah, that was a big, nasty wake up call. But
yeah, that's hard.
But it hasn't been perfect since then, but it's been better.
Yeah.
And unless you're, like we've talked about before, unless you're pushing yourself to do things that are outside of your comfort zone, you never make those improvements. That was an unexpected result from 75 Hard. That's not in the book.
Yeah.
If you read the book on mental toughness, he's not saying, oh, this is going to help you communicate better with your spouse because you're going to have to do stuff that sucks.
Yeah. It's an incredible byproduct.
Yeah, for sure. And one that now, like, even when it comes to the day-to-day stuff, that question, at night, hey, what's tomorrow look like for you, so that we can help each other set expectations for what that is, dude. That's been stellar.
Dude, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it would be cool. Like, I'm not taking away from 75 Hard. I think everybody should at least do 75 Hard once.
Yeah.
It's one of those things where I'm like, you should do it. I think the important thing is, once you do 75 Hard, is to do a reflection of, like, what did 75 Hard do for you? Like, what were your takeaways? What are you going to continue to implement into your life?
Yep.
Because if you do 75 Hard and you do it correctly and you don't cut corners and you're not cheating yourself,
and you're taking your progress picture,
then you'll actually have some takeaways that you can then, upon your reflection and assessment, decide what you're going to implement and make those changes. And I think that is also another key thing to, like, the question you asked earlier is, all right, hey, are you doing things that are going to challenge you? And once you've completed those challenging tasks, or during the journey of that challenging task, are you taking the time to do an assessment and then figure out what changes need to be made and what can you implement into your life?
Yeah, I do think so. I've been asked this question a lot the last several months, right? As people are getting ready to make their New Year's resolutions, should I do 75 Hard or should I do the Def Reset? And
both.
Well, okay, so you can do both, right? But I always ask, like, what's the intent? Is it because you want to put yourself in a situation where you're in deep water and that you need to have an imposed discipline on you, whether it's the checklist or whatever, to get you through the next 2.5 months? Is it because you want that accomplishment, because you want to build mental toughness? Then go 75 Hard. If it's a lifestyle thing, you want to really change your lifestyle, I tell people Def Reset, because the Def Reset it's scalable. Like,
and it's something, I mean, yeah, there are a lot of people that have been doing the Def Reset every single day since it first rolled out.
Yeah.
So,
and I mean, there's a reason that in the Execute Journal, right, that it's got those things there, because that is doing living a lifestyle where you day in and day out did the things in 75 hard over the course of 6 months or 12 months, like there is a point of diminishing return.
Yeah.
The def reset is completely sustainable. Hydrate. Well, what's that mean, for you today, right? Are you up before the enemy? Does that mean waking up at 4:30? Are you working third shift? And does that mean like noon is you're up before the enemy, right? Did you get a workout in? Well, all right. With, talking about the alignment and stuff that I had to have with my wife, is my workout, today, my gym doesn't open until 7 a.m. on Sundays. So that's a no-go for me if I want a morning workout.
Yeah.
But I can roll out of bed and I can do 50 push-ups, 50 sit-ups, 50 air squats. That didn't take me 45 minutes, so it wouldn't check a box for 75 hard, but it took me 25, and now that checks the box for what I'm doing for the def reset. And so that's one of the reasons that I love this this program, is because there's a scalability to it, to where you keep that thing up on your fridge or keep it on your desk, or a post-it note in your car, like wherever it is. You can do these things every day for the rest of your life, and it will keep you disciplined. It has that richness in the routine that you can know what to do, and then move on from there. So I always ask the intent, because I do think 75 hard is something that everybody should do once.
Yeah. And if you can make changes towards something that you do, the Live Hard program, the whole year-long thing, like there are some people that have the ability to do that and continuously do it. That's awesome. I think there's, it's like, to your point, it's like, what are you trying to accomplish?
Right.
Like, what do you want to get done? There was one time during 75 hard, I was doing my workout and I just wasn't, it's funny. Like afterwards, Jocko was like, bro, you could have just come on the call late. But in my mind, I'm like, no, but it was a team call. It wasn't like it, but so we were like, and there's like a few other people that ended up like showing up late because they were getting done with like other stuff or another call or whatever. But when I was doing my workout, which typically most of my workouts in 75 hard were these EMOMs that I had programmed for myself.
Yep.
Justin and I got together and we put together a bunch of different EMOMs that worked very well for me. And the results I get from EMOMs is it's weird, man. Yeah. It's really weird, but I love it. So anyways, I'm at like 43 minutes and I'm like, and I'm sorry, I was at 42 minutes because I remember I had 3 minutes left. Mm-hmm. That's why I mixed up the 3 in my brain. And I couldn't do those other 3 rounds because I was going to be late for the call. Yeah. And so, boom. Well, guess what? That workout didn't count, homie. I didn't cut those corners. You know, like I didn't cut the corners.
So now I get 3 workouts today. Yep. Yeah.
Yeah. And so I did another. Now, obviously, it wasn't as intense because, but.
Yeah. You got to manage burnout and body and all that stuff.
Yeah, that was fun. There was a few times I did that. A few times I'd be walking as I was reading to keep myself awake. Because if I lay down and read, I was going to fall asleep. Yeah. So.
Yep.
It's about putting in the work, man.
Yeah. And there is something to, like, especially coming from a music background and working with creatives, is we think that we're super spontaneous and we want to live these really spontaneous lives. And I was talking with a friend not too long ago, and he's like, man, I couldn't do the workout stuff like you do. I can't wake up like you do and all that. I'm just not a morning person. I'm like, I'm not a morning person either. I hate it, but it's what right now suits my lifestyle so that I can have the time that I need for my job, for my kids, for my wife. But here's the thing, you thinking that you're living this like super spontaneous life, that there is no structure to your life. Your life is not spontaneous. Your life is chaos. You can't do something that's spontaneous unless you have structure. The whole idea of spontaneity is that it gets you out of the structure that you have. Mm-hmm. So we had this conversation a few months ago, and I got a chance to talk to him over the Christmas break, and I was like, how are things going? He's like, bro, I actually started, I got the def reset stuff, and I'm trying to do those things every day. And I was like, hey, he goes, I will tell you the spontaneity, the moments of spontaneousness, of spontaneity in my life are actually really rewarding now because I see that like I made a decision to do something different than what I do every other day.
That's good.
And now I can kind of enjoy that change in the routine, that I made the decision to do it, that I broke away from the mold again. Mm-hmm. And he's like, it feels like high school. I was like, all right. He goes, because, whether it was a cut in class in high school or us doing something that was like rebellious, that now there's no real authority to rebel against unless we want to end up in prison because we're adults.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah,
So the authority that he's rebelling against is the routine. And that for him, like he's finally at this point where he's like, okay, spontaneity is satisfying again because it means something instead of just, I've got to wait until tomorrow to make the decision. Like, no, I made the decision today, and tomorrow I'm going to decide not to do it.
Yeah.
So there you go. I'm going to have, whatever it is, the small little things, and those now become way more satisfying because they're choices and not just chaos. That there's some structure there, which has been pretty cool.
That's awesome, man. Yeah. That's awesome. Any other final things?
Dude, I think my final thing coming into or coming up on what for us is we're looking down the scope, episode 68, we've got episode 100 on the horizon. We got the second year of the podcast. I talked about this stuff at Charisma Church. They reached their third year. That's a things in threes are milestones for podcasts too. I think they said 97% of podcasts don't make it past episode 3. And that
How is that possible?
You got a good idea, and then you start doing it, and you realize that it takes a lot of work. I mean, it takes, people think about like the editing the show and stuff like that. That's the work. The work is aligning schedules to make sure that we can be here at the same time. The work is you putting together the run sheet so that we know what to do. It's scheduling guests and working around all of that stuff. And what are you going to talk about, and building chemistry? Like those are the things that are the work. And I think after 3 episodes, people start to realize like, hey, you know what? This is going to be really hard, and it's going to take a commitment. And so, that there's that, but the third year is also something that for a lot of podcasts, like they hit that, and then, they've done 150 episodes, and they look back and they've gotten to the point where like maybe they're getting some sponsorships and starting to get some good feedback and stuff. And they don't realize that like 5 to 7 is what you're looking at. And that's where it falls apart. I mean, my podcast that I did for forever, The Reverend and the Reprobate, we hit the 3-year mark, and then that was it. My co-host burned out. One of our favorite podcasts, which is not family friendly, but Tea Time Crimes, is 2 gals. One of them loves true crime, one of them hates it. And so the one who hates it does a tea review, and the one who loves it tells her a story about a true crime story that typically involves a woman, and she hates it the entire time. And their friendships and their reactions are great. They hit the 3-year mark, and they're like, hey, listen, hey, we want to thank everybody for their support. 150 episodes, 150 weeks of this. It's an exhausting amount of work, and we're going on hiatus, and we've messaged back and forth, and for several other podcasts, like that's what it's at. Wow. So I think the thing for me is my final thoughts is like that we have to learn to not just find the richness in routine, but think beyond the failure points.
I like that.
If the failure point is 3 episodes, then start planning episode 5 so that you've got something to look forward to. If the failure point is 3 years, then let's look at what we're going to do on episode 153. Let's not just like look at what we're going to do there, but let's see if we can schedule that guest for 2026 to say like, hey, you're coming. We're gonna make it happen, and we're gonna bring you in for this, and what we're gonna do at episode 300 whenever we hit what would that be, 4 years of this or whatever, or no, that's bad math. It's 6 years, right? Like what are we gonna do then, and start to look beyond those points of failure, because it's like what you were talking about, man. If we're planning beyond those things, then like, hey, you know what, we weren't exactly where we needed to be, but we know where we're going, so let's assess and let's make it happen.
I love it, dude.
Yeah,
that's awesome. All right, so with that, we want to thank you guys for the support you've given us, because we're going to keep doing it. All the support you guys given us for just by simply listening, sharing, subscribing, and commenting, we really appreciate it. Make sure you're subscribed to us on YouTube so you can be notified when our YouTube exclusive episodes come out.
Use tubes.
If you want to follow us on social media, I'm at JP Dinnell, 2 N's, 2 L's. Lucas is at Lucas Pinkard, Lucaspinkard. Make sure you're also following Echelon Front on social media. We are at Echelon Front. And when you want to learn more about what we do at Echelon Front, go to echelonfront.com. You can click on events to see future events that we have, shop for some of the merch we have, check out Extreme Ownership Academy. And if you would like to work with us at Echelon Front, or if you need us to come work with you in your company, you can also request that on the website and someone from our team will reach out to you. You can also just send me a direct message and I will help facilitate that as well.
That EO Academy, the 1 o'clock Monday calls, that's some of my favorite stuff.
I'm looking forward to today's with Dave Burke and Matt Hasby.
I love, so the instruction is incredible, but getting on the chat and getting the sit reps from the people who like you're starting to build these relationships with, as y'all are all in the chat every week, and to see the successes that they're having is super motivating.
It's awesome.
It's a blast.
It's
man.
well worth the investment.
No doubt.
Okay. Yep. So look forward to seeing you guys at a future event, or for one of our instructors to come work with you and your company. Also check out Jesus and Jiu-Jitsu _USA. It's a ministry that I'm a part of. We have a podcast that has episodes that come out every Tuesday. We're doing events about once every 4 to 6 weeks at different gyms. We start off with a free Jiu-Jitsu seminar. Someone shares their testimony, and then we open it up for open mat for some good training.
Yeah. Feb 15th, I believe, at Double Five.
Nice.
Victoria is going to be our instructor for
let's go.
The post Valentine's Day, like, you know, get out all your angst from all the money you spent, or Singles Awareness Day Jiu-Jitsu fit. Like, let's do it.
Dude, she is an incredible instructor. Incredible
just
Jiu-Jitsu
monster.
Yeah.
Yep.
Some of my favorite moments with her in Jiu-Jitsu is watching her just destroy other men that are also black belts that think because she's a smaller girl, they get to go easy on her.
Yeah.
I saw one time at the other gym location, there's a black belt that was visiting. He was like just from another gym, or I don't know where he's at. And for me, he goes like, hey, do you mind going with Victoria? And he looked at Victoria and he goes, yeah. And he told for me, he goes, I'll go easy on her.
Dumb.
She heard that. I got nervous because I saw her. And I avoided my round. Like, because for me, it was like, hey, do you want, and I was like, I'll take a rest one. I just wanted to watch.
Yep.
And bro, she beat the living brakes off of this guy, to the point where the guy got done with his round, went and sat on the wall, took his belt off, and just sat there as in he was done training for the day.
Yeah.
It was amazing. Dude, and her husband, Trey, is incredible. Like, they're incredible humans.
Yep.
But yeah, I'm excited for her.
So she is the reason that I'm afraid of, like, the teenagers that come into our church now.
Because they're all being trained by her, potentially.
Exactly. Yeah. Like both your daughters, right? Yeah. I think the last time we were talking about something, I was talking with Cora and Nola, and I was like, they're like, hey, when are we going to roll together? I was like, never. We're never going to roll together. It's not going to happen. Dude. Like, I don't need to be I don't need to add to my resume choked out by 13-year-old who was trained by Victoria. It's not something that, choked by Tim Kennedy? Sure.
Okay, cool.
Yeah. Yep, choked out by JP Dinnell or Isaac or any of the guys we trained with? Absolutely. Choked out by
the Dinnell
Cora
twins?
Dinnell? Like, no. Followed by Nola choking me? Nope. That's not it.
We were at immersion camp, and Victoria came, or her and Trey came, and Victoria was helping teach. The amount of positive feedback that people got for her instruction was unreal.
She's so patient too,
and she
teaches a beginner's class.
Yeah, and she was also demoing stuff in front of the whole group. There's one time like Pete was like, "Hey, blah blah blah," can you? And so she demoed it, and everyone was like, "What?" And I'm not going to share what the move was.
Yeah,
because that was exclusive for the immersion camp.
Bummer.
I know. Hey, sign up and come next year. Yeah, she'll be there again.
I think there's like 2 spots left.
Maybe. Yeah. It was so impressive to where, so I've seen her do this before, and so I'm watching, but I'm also watching everybody, and to watch all these other high level black belts that are all there as experts all do this. Like, it looked like the Joe Rogan and, for the UFC, whenever there's like a knockout, they do the videos of
the Joe Rogan reaction.
You looked around, everyone was like,
that's so cool.
Can we see that again? And she was demoing it on Trey, and Trey was like,
if you have to.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was awesome.
It's
So-
yeah, she does a lot with the beginners class too, and we were doing escapes from guard. And I've said this before, my jiu-jitsu IQ is in the negatives. And so I'll do something and she's like, "You're getting closer. You're getting closer. Here, put your hand like this. Pull here, Lucas.
Yeah.
Okay, put your hand on his belt. Okay, take it. No, not like
no.
this.
Okay,
Do
let's
it.
just start over.
Yeah, why did you put your hands in the collar like that? Because that feels natural. That's not natural. That's not good."
Okay.
Like, okay, but so sweet and so patient.
Yeah, it's awesome.
She's great, man.
So you guys hopefully can all
be there.
Also go to Little Cattle Co.
Get that beef.
Yeah, Little Cattle Co. littlecattle.co is our website, Texas Beef Company and partner with. Get it while you can. That's all I'm going to say. We're a custom beef company that allows you to order exactly what you want anytime. We're able to deliver anywhere in the lower 48 states. We have a ground beef subscription plan. We have different beef tallow products, which include body butter, tallow cream, lip balm, beef sticks. If you want to be a wholesaler for the beef sticks and or the beef tallow products, please send an email to amanda@littlecattle.co. Also partner with a printing company called On the Path Printing. We are on Instagram. You can send us a message. It's On the Path Printing. Let us know what you need, and we will start cranking out those orders. Leif, Jocko, and I have a company called Bruiser Arms. You can check us out on Instagram. We are at Bruiser Arms. You can send us a message about custom gear packages we offer, and also the custom training classes that we can put together for you, a group, your team, company, whoever. You can also just send me a direct message about this, and I can help facilitate whatever is needed to move forward with that training. Also, make sure you check out Origin and Jocko Fuel. I just want to thank them for all the support they have given over the years. What they have done is absolutely incredible. You guys have heard me talk about what Pete and Amanda and Dedeco and Jocko and everybody at Origin and Jocko Fuel has done. It's unreal. It's absolutely unreal. So if you want to get the best,
Celebrating, I think, 10 years, right?
Yeah.
No, over a decade
10
now.
Yeah, it's been over a decade. So I was like, wait, I was there for their 10 year. That was a couple of years ago. I think we're like 12 years now.
Yeah, we're closing in on,
which is crazy what they've done.
Yep.
Pete always talks about decades. Everything's in decades.
Yeah,
right?
I think that's why I got that, because he was like, it takes a decade to build something, and now they sold their 100,000th pair of American-made jeans.
It's
crazy, dude.
So if you want to get the best jiu-jitsu gear and the best clothes that are all 100% made in America, go to originusa.com. Make sure you also go to jockofuel.com to get your supplements and clean energy drinks. Closing thoughts. I love what Lucas said. I love our conversations today. And the only thing I would just add to it is be willing to do the hard work. Like, life requires hard work. Don't create an environment that creates weakness. Be the one that's out there that's doing hard things, but also empowering the people around you to be able to do hard things as well, because that's a legacy play. And here's the deal. Every single one of you, myself included, we are all leaving a legacy. So the thing I will ask you is, what type of legacy are you leaving? I hope this episode has been a reminder to go do the work that's needed, put in the effort, and to never settle. This has been the JP Dinnell Podcast, episode 68.